Good day everyone, Mr. Cargill here with our next AutoCAD video. Now in this video we're going to look at how we go about doing this CAPE BMED Unit 1 past paper question right here. Now this question asks us to do a number of things. So firstly, A says that we're supposed to draw the front elevation of this tube right here. The question itself says, figure 3 shows a cylindrical tube with a 50mm diameter hole straight through it. The tube is cut at 30 degrees to its axis. So this shows a 30-degree cut of the tube right here. The first thing says to draw the given front elevation of the tube for 3 marks. Second thing is to project the plan view showing all hidden details for 6 marks. State your angle of projection for 2 marks. And then D says to project the complete auxiliary view of the tube perpendicular to its cut face for 9 marks, and that gives you a total of 20 marks for this question. So we're going to start doing this question. Now we're going to start with A, which is to draw the given front elevation of the tube. Now in order to draw the front elevation, we have to draw the plan view at the same time as well. So we're going to start off by drawing this rectangle here. We're not going to draw the ellipses as yet. So this would be a rectangle that would be 70 on the y-axis and then 120 on the x-axis. Alright, now let's head over to AutoCAD and draw this. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is to start with that rectangle. So I have a few layers set up. I have a centerline layer, I have a construction line layer, well I have 2 construction line layers, and I have an outline layer. Alright, so I'm going to select one of the construction line layers and I'm going to draw the rectangle. So that rectangle had 2 measurements. So on the y-axis it was 70 and then the x-axis is 120. So let me just turn on ortho here so that I can get this line completely vertical. So this is supposed to be 70 here. And then now we'll have a next line with a length of 120. So you could use the line command to do this, but you could also use the rectangle command, which is right over here. All right, and then this comes back down by 70 and then goes over here like this, right there. Good, so now we have that. Now, this is what we're going to do. We need the center line here, this center line. We need this center line. And we're going to bring up a few lines. So to get the center line, if this is 70, then the center line would be in the middle. So that would be 35. So we could offset one of these lines by 35 in the middle here. Or we could just turn on object snap and turn on midpoint in object snap and get this midpoint here and just bring across a horizontal line. The length of the line doesn't matter. Next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to bring up 2 vertical lines, one on this side, length again does not matter, and one on the next side. So let me just copy this here, copy this from here and bring it to this side right here. Now the next thing that we're going to do is to get the next horizontal line right here, because we're now going to be drawing the plan view, and the plan view is going to be above the front view right here because I'm going to be doing this in third angle orthographic projection. You could also use first angle orthographic projection because they didn't specify which angle. They just said that you are supposed to state which angle you use. So I'm going to start anywhere. I could start here or up here, down here, doesn't matter. So I'm going to start like right here. So I'm going to draw a line like that. And I'm going to offset that line by 70. The reason I'm going to offset that line by 70 is because the width of the tube is 70. So I'm going to offset by 70. So let me type offset here. And then I'm going to offset by 70. Good. So that's our offset. Now, we also want a next offset. So we want to find the midpoint here. So what we can do now is to offset this line by 35, since this distance between these 2 lines would be 70. So 35 would be right in the middle. So we're going to offset now by 35. So there we have that. Now the next thing we're going to do here, it says that this is a 30-degree cut to the axis. So there's a 30-degree cut. So this is the 30-degree cut in the front view. We have to get that cut in the plan view, and then we can bring that down to get the ellipses for the front view. How do we go about doing that? Like this. The center line is important. So we're going to turn on polar tracking, click the drop down arrow beside polar tracking, and we're going to set this increment angle to increments of 30. So right here. We're going to select a line now, and we're going to click right on this point. So we're this line in the middle right here, the center line in the plan view, where that meets this vertical line, which is right here. We're going to draw a line, a 30-degree line up like that. All right. And then we're going to extend the line down. The length of the line, once again, does not matter. All right, so I'm going to click on the line and I'm going to extend it down at the same 30-degree angle, like that. And then from there, what I'm going to do is to click on this line and I'm going to extend it. I'm going to extend this horizontal line here across to meet the 30-degree line. So it's going to look like that. So now I'm going to trim. So I'm going to trim here, trim those, and then I'll trim this piece right here. For now, I'll also trim this. Yeah. So with that now, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring vertical lines down from here, down like that. And I'm also going to bring a next vertical line down from here, right at this point. The length of these lines does not matter. You just want to ensure that they reach at least this horizontal line. All right, now from here, what we want to do is this. We can now draw the ellipses. However, remember that there's a hole of 50 millimeters that is running through this tube. So we also need to draw that hole. So from this center line, I'm going to offset this center line by 25 millimeters up and down. And I'm going to do the same thing right here. Now, the reason I'm going to offset by 25 millimeters is because the whole of the diameter would be 50. So 25 would be half of 50. So I'm just going to offset the center line by 25 up and down. So offset, and I'll set my offset distance at 25. So I'm going to offset this up like that and down like this. And I'll do the same thing for the front view as well. Offset that line up by 25 and then down by 25. Alright. So for now I can kind of start to clean up the drawing a bit. So I can trim off those excess and I can trim off that excess. Could also trim this here as well. Now we need to draw our ellipses. So this is what we're going to do. This line here, and I can trim a piece of this line here like that. And now this line here, I can bring this across to meet the 30-degree line. So I'll just bring it across like that. All right, now where that line meets the 30-degree line, right here, I'm going to bring down a vertical line. You just want to ensure that it at least meets this line. And I'm also going to bring down the next one from here. You just want to ensure it meets, at least meets the center line, but I'll bring it all the way down here. So now we get the points for the ellipses, because based on this drawing here, we would have known the distances for the minor axis, but not the major axis. All right, because based on this drawing here, you can see that we would have the minor axis, the distances for the minor axis. So for example, for the smaller ellipse, the minor axis would be 50, and the major axis, and the minor axis for the larger ellipse would be 70. But we do not know the distances for the major axis. But we did get those distances by bringing down lines from the plan view. So now with that, we have these lines down here, so we can now draw our ellipse. So let me just switch to a white line here. So now I'm going to just select the ellipse command. I think my ellipse is on center and then end. So the center of the ellipse would be here. What's that specific point? This is where, so the center line here in the plan view comes across, means the 30-degree line, and then comes down, means the center line in the plan view. That would be the center of your ellipse. Now the minor axis is here for the smaller ellipse, and then the major axis is right here. So we have one ellipse. For the next ellipse, it's the same center right here, and then the minor axis is up here, and the major axis is right there. So with that, we would have completed, well, almost completed our front view. We just need to like brighten these lines. Like this line, I can brighten, make that white, this one, and that one. And also you need your hatching lines, because as you can see, even with the question, this is hatched to show that a portion of it is cut off. So we're going to hatch our lines also. So I can just freeze my construction layer a bit because I want it out of the way for now. So I'll freeze it, and then I'll just select this hatch command right here. The hatch that you're going to use is the regular diagonal hatch that you would use to represent cut sections. All right, so this one right here, this is the one we're going to use. All right, so I'm just going to click in here now, and it is going to hatch this for me. If when you do your hatch, if you realize that it doesn't show hatched, but when you zoom in, you can see the hatched lines, you just click on the hatch, and then this here, this is the scale. You can make the scale larger if your lines are too close together, and you can make the scale smaller if your lines are too far apart. All right, so now I can turn on back my construction layer. All right, so there we go. Construction layers are back on. All right, so what can I do with this now? What have we done so far? We have answered A. So we have drawn the given front view. So we have the front view. So far we have 3 marks. So now we need to do B, which is to project the plan view showing all hidden details for 6 marks. We're almost there. Actually, I think we're done with it. We just need to brighten. Yeah. So we have the front view here. So we just need to do some brightening. So we would brighten this here, make that a white line, make this a white line also. There we go. Now we would have some hidden details for here and for here. Let me just bring this back to this point here. So these lines would actually be, let me make these white lines, and also let me change this to a broken line right here, like that. All right, good. And if you don't know to change a line to broken line, you just click the drop down arrow here, select other, and then there's going to be a little window that comes up, select load, and then you can load this line here, ISO dash. That's your broken line, and that's how you get like your center line and every other line as well. All right, now we would also have some hidden details here as well. So like this part of the tube going across, that would be showing in hidden details. So we have to show that also. So this line would actually be in hidden details. I'm going to make it hidden details from like right here. So that would be in hidden details going across. And this would also be in hidden details going across over here. Alright, so this, I think I drew this from the wrong point. So let me just delete this and redraw it from the correct point, which is from right here where the line meets the ellipse, and it will come across to this point here. So now I can make this line a broken line, and I can also make this line a broken line. So let's make these lines broken lines. So there we go. All right, good. So now we have the front view and the plan view done. What else do we need here for the rest of our marks? So for the rest of our marks, it says that we would need to do this here. It says that we would need to state our angle of projection. Now it clearly says state. This A says draw, so we know that we're supposed to draw the tube, but this says state. It didn't say draw or project, which leads me to think that it is just asking us to state our angle of projection, meaning just write that this is first angle or third angle orthographic projection, but I would also draw it as well if I have the time to, even though it says state, just in case. And to draw the projection symbol, it is quite simple. In this case, I am doing a third angle orthographic projection. So I would just need a circle. So like this. Well, let me start with a line first. Start with the tube part. So let me draw it like right over, somewhere over here, above the plan view where it doesn't interfere with the drawing. So I would have like a line like this, and then I would need a center line that would come across like this. Okay, my center, oh, I need to change this to bilayer. There we go, so that's my center line. So now I'm just going to draw a next vertical line. Length of my line here doesn't really matter. The distance from the other line doesn't really matter. All that matters is that this line, the center line, goes right through the center of my line, which makes it a center line. So there we have that, and then I'm just going to connect these 2 points like this, like that, and like this. I'm going to draw 2 circles. The first circle is going to be equal to, the diameter of the circle is going to be equal to the length of the small line here. So I'm just bring this, move this over outside like this, like that. And then now for the next circle, the diameter for this circle is going to be equal to the length of the longer line. Click on this, select move, and I'm going to move it from the center here. Let me just select move it from the center, bring it to the center of this circle, because the circles are concentric circles, meaning that they will share the same center. So what I'm going to do is just to bring the circle to the center of the smaller circle here. So there, I have the 2 circles. And then I'm just going to extend my center line out a bit, extend it a little bit past the circle like that. And then I'm going to get a next center line. This one is a vertical center line, so apply that just a little bit outside of the drawing. And then I bring it down a little bit out of the drawing again, like this. And there you have your projection symbol. Let me just extend this out. So in this case, that's my projection symbol. And that says that this is third angle orthographic projection. You could also just write that this is third angle orthographic projection, because it says state. It didn't say draw or anything. I just drew as an extra precaution. But if you're going to draw, write as well. Write that it is third angle or first angle, depending on the angle that you draw in. So now I'm going to do the next part of the question, which says that you're supposed to project the complete auxiliary view of the tube perpendicular to its cut face. Alright, so the complete auxiliary view of the tube is what we're required to do here. So for us to do that, this is what we're going to need. This center line, I'm going to extend it out. Let me just turn on back ortho. I'm going to extend this line out like that. The length does not matter. So once I extend my line out, let me just select a construction layer here. So I'm going to draw a circle. The radius of my circle is going to be equal to half the length of the width of the tube. To make it simpler, I could say that the diameter of my circle is going to be equal to the diameter of the tube, or the total width of the tube, which is 70. So if the diameter is 70, then the radius is 35. So I'm going to draw my circle with a radius of 35 millimeters. So there we go, that's 35. So I'm going to divide this circle into 12 equal parts. So to do that, what I'm going to do is this. I'll select a line from this quadrant here to down here to the next quadrant. Let me just actually trim off that extra piece because I want it to be nice and clean for when I do my array. I don't want anything hanging outside of the circle, which is why I'm also going to draw a next horizontal center line, even though I already have one, and this is why. So I'm going to click on this line and this line, and I'm going to select array, And I'm going to select array polar, because polar array is what I want. And then once I select that now, I'm going to click in the middle of the circle where the two lines meet. And what that is going to do is to divide my circle into 12 equal parts for me. Okay, so there we have that. Now, once we have that, we are going to bring across some horizontal lines. Actually, I don't need to bring across horizontal lines. I can just copy. So I'll copy this line from here, and I'll bring it to the different points where the division lines meet the circle. So for example, this, I'll bring it to right here. So this division line meets the circle right here. So I'll bring my first point to here. Then this next division line meets the circle here. So I'll bring this to here. And as you can see, this line also goes through this point where this division line meets this circle. So then I'm going to bring my next line to where this next division line meets the circle. I already have one going through the center line. So then I'll do this one here, and this one here, and also this one. Alright, so I brought across those lines from all those points where my division lines meet my circle. Once I've done that, the next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to bring down lines perpendicular to the 30-degree angle. Why perpendicular lines? Because the question here, part D, says to project the complete auxiliary view of the tube perpendicular to its cut face. So this is the reason I'm doing this. So from here, I'm going to turn on polar tracking, ensure that my increment angle is set to increments of 30, and then I'm going to select right here at this point where this horizontal line meets the 30-degree line right here, and I'm going to bring down this line at a 30-degree angle. Length of the line doesn't matter, so I'm going to bring down more lines from where these division lines meet my 30-degree line here. But instead of drawing more lines, I can just copy this one from here. So the next division line meets the circle here, the next horizontal line meets the circle here, and the next horizontal line meets the circle here. This one is the center line, and then the next horizontal line meets the circle right here, and then the next horizontal line meets the circle here, and then we have this one. Lovely. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to draw a line that is perpendicular to these lines that we just brought down. So you can start that line anywhere. I'm going to start mine about right here. Alright, so that looks good. Actually, let me just move it. So I'm going to start my line right here. Alright, that looks good. Now, what are we going to do with that line? This is what we're going to do with this line. Let me just trim it up a bit. Just trim off this piece and also trim off this piece. This is a center line, so I should make it a center line here, just so I don't get confused. Now, what we're doing is taking measurements. So like this, I'm going to measure. I'll be measuring distances from the center of this circle to where the horizontal lines meet the edge of the circle. What does that mean? It means this. So for example, this line here, this center line meets this horizontal line right here, and the distance from the center line here to this line here is 18. That's given to us as 18 millimeters. So what we're going to do is to offset our center line by 18 millimeters to the left and to the right. I don't need to do it in both directions. I could just do it to the left or to the right and then mirror it once I'm done. But I'm going to do it on both sides just so that you can see the entire construction. Alright, now, so that was 18. So the question might be, why did I use this line here instead of starting here? Because what we're measuring is the distance from the vertical center line of the circle to where these horizontal lines meet the edge of the circle. And as you can see, this horizontal line would actually meet this vertical center line right here at the edge of the circle. So there's nothing to measure because that distance would be 0. So now let's measure again. We're going to measure the distance from the vertical center line along this horizontal line to where it meets the edge of the circle right here. So that's 30. So we have two offsets here, 18 and 30. So I'm going to select offset, and I could select 18 and do those offsets and then select 30 afterwards. But I'm just going to use the through offset command so that I can do more than one offset without having to change much. Alright, so I'm going to select the through offset method and I'm going to click on this line. I'm going to offset it up by 18, enter. Click on it again, offset it down by 18, enter. Click on the line again, offset it up by 30, enter. Click on the center line again, this time offset it down by 30, enter. I'm going to do one more offset, well, two more, and I'm going to offset by 35. Why am I going to offset by 35? Because this center line, if I should measure the distance from the center of the circle to where this division line, which happens to be the center line, the horizontal center line, meets the circle right here, that distance would be 35. And I know that because that distance is basically equal to the radius of the circle, which is 35. So now I can just click on this line and offset it by 35 up here, and then 35 down here. Alright, so those are the distances we need. So what am I going to do with that now? I'm going to select a spline. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to actually go back to the 0 layer here. I'm going to select a spline by typing spline. And then I'm going to start here, right? And now I'm going to start here actually, where this center line meets this first line right here. Then I'm just basically going to be matching different points. So where this line now meets this perpendicular line here, then these next two lines meet here, then this outermost line meets center line here, and then these two lines meet here, and then right here, and then also here. So at this point, I could just stop my construction here and then mirror this, but I'm actually just going to complete the drawing. So these next two lines meet right here. These next two lines meet here. Then this line meets the center line here. And then these next lines meet right here. These two lines meet here, and then right here. And then now we just press enter. And here we have that. So now what this represents is the outer part of our tube. So that would be right here. But we also need to show the internal part, the whole of the tube as well. So to do that, we're actually going to have to draw a next circle that is going to be equal to the diameter of the hole that goes through the tube. And the diameter for the hole that goes through the tube is 50 millimeters. So I'm going to select a circle. I just move to my next construction layer right here because I'm going to use those for the lines coming from the smaller circle so I do not get confused. So I'm going to draw this circle here. And I am going to draw this circle with a radius of 25. So there we have that circle with a radius of 25. So what I'm going to do now is to bring across horizontal lines from where the smaller circle meet these division lines. Alright, so for example, the first one is going to come from here, where this center line meets the circumference of the small circle right at this quadrant point. So I'm going to bring across a horizontal line like that. Alright, so now we have this line. But I am actually, let me just change the color of that line for a bit. I'll change it back once I'm done, but I'll just change it to a different color right now so I don't get confused. So I'm going to change this to cyan, just so I don't get confused. So I will now know that the cyan lines represent the construction for the smaller circle. Once I'm done, I'll change it back to the regular construction lines. So instead of bringing other lines or drawing other lines, I'm just going to copy this one here. So I'll copy this line and I'll bring it to the different points where the division lines meet the circles. So for example, here, this division line meets the circle here, and that line also comes to this point. This division line meets the circle here, and this line also comes to this point. We already have the center line, so I don't need to draw one. And then this line here will also have that line. Then we'll also have this line that comes from where this from here actually, where this division line meets a small circle here, and then one from the end right here. So what are we going to do with those lines? First of all, let me just trim up this end here to make the drawing a bit cleaner. So what are we going to do with those lines now? So where these lines meet the 30-degree line right here, so this comes from here, I'll just bring this line down at a 30-degree angle like this. Oh, I don't have polar tracking turned on, so there polar tracking is on, and we have our point there. So now I can copy this. So I could just click on this line here, select copy, and I'll copy this line from here to this point here to this point here. And these points are from where the cyan lines meet the 30-degree line here. I don't need to bring one from the center line because we already have that one. So the next cyan line meets the center line here. This one meets it there, and then this one at the end meets it right there. So there we go. We have all the lines that we need. So we're going to do the same construction like we did when we were doing the larger circle, the larger ellipse down here. Alright, so from the center line of the small circle, we're going to measure to where the different division points meet the circle. So for example, when I measure this distance, I get 13, so I have to keep that in mind. So that first one is 13. The second offset would be now 22, and the third one is going to be 25. Why would it be 25? It would be 25 because the radius of the circle is 25, and the last one is right on the center line. Alright, so the first offset is 13, so I'll just select 13 here. So I'll offset the center line here by 13 here to the left and 13 to the right. I'm temporarily going to change this center line to a cyan line, just so I know that I don't get confused. So these two lines are 13. So then I'll offset by 22. I could have turned off the other construction layer so I don't get confused as well. And now the final offset is 25. So I'll click on this line, offset it up and also down. So we're going to be matching some stuff here. What exactly are we matching? So let me go back to the 0 layer and change this to bilayer. So I'm going to select a spline once more. When I select the spline, I'm just going to be matching cyan lines. Where this center line right here, the cyan center line, where it meets this first perpendicular line here, that's our first point. So then we're going to make this our second point where the next two cyan lines meet, and then the next two cyan lines meet here, and then this cyan line meets the center line here. These two cyan lines meet here, and then there, and then right here back to our center. And then these two meet here, and then these meet here. This meets the center line here. So then we can continue. So these two meet here, these two meet here, and then we end where we started. So right there, and press enter. So there we have that part of it. So I'm just going to freeze the construction line layers for a bit. So I'll freeze them, and the reason I'm freezing them, let me also freeze the center line layer as well. The reason I'm freezing them is so that I can hatch this right here. So I'll select the hatch command. It's already set to the hatch that I want from when I previously did this hatch right here. So now I'm just going to hatch this right here. So there we have our hatch. That's what we need, so I can unfreeze these layers. Alright, so now that we have that, it said that we're supposed to do the front or the cut section. It says that the question clearly states that we are supposed to project the complete auxiliary view of the tube. So we're going to do the complete auxiliary view of the tube right here. And in doing the complete auxiliary view of the tube, it means that we have to do over here also. Now, what is that going to look like? Well, let me just change this to a center line first though. And let me just put this to bilayer. Okay. Alright, now for this, what we need is this. We're going to bring down some 30-degree lines from here, from where this vertical line at the end here, because we're drawing this end over here. So let's do that. So we already have some 30-degree lines here conveniently. So we can just copy this. Copy one of these ones. So the gray ones represent the large circle, and then the cyan one represents the smaller circle or the hole in the middle. So that goes there, this goes here, that one goes there. Also need one from the center, which is here, and then here, and here, and the final one is down here. Alright, so that is for the larger circle, or the circle on the outside. So instead of confusing ourselves, let's do that one first. So what are we going to do with that? This is what we're going to do with that. I'm going to select a line, and I'm going to draw a line that is perpendicular to these lines, and it's going to be tangential to my ellipse here. So it's going to come from like this point right here, the center line. The center line meets the edge of the ellipse right there. So let me just turn on back polar tracking, and I'm going to bring this down like that, and I can copy this. So it's basically like a tangent to the ellipse, and that one would go right there. So they're basically tangents to the ellipse. So let me just trim off the excess now. So I'll trim this here, and I'll trim this right here. We could also bring down the center line. So in this case, the center line is this one right here. But instead of bringing this down, let me actually just go in the construction layer. So I'm in the construction layer, and I'm just going to bring this center line down like that. And I'm going to do some offsets. So I'm going to do some offsets. What are my offsets going to be equal to? My offsets are going to be equal to these same offsets over here. So just like we had offset by 13 and so on and so forth, we're doing the same thing here, which means that we can just simply bring these lines down like this. So I can just continue these lines down. So continue that line down like that, continue that line down, already brought down the center line, continue this one down like this, and then continue this one down also just like that. And what do we get when we do that now? Okay, good. So this is what we get when we do that. When we do that, we end up getting an ellipse that looks like this. So let me go back to the zero layer here. So it's going to look like this. So type spline. So these two lines meet here. So this white line meets this center line right here, and we can make that our first point. Then these next two lines meet here, these two meet here, these two meet here, and these two meet here, these two meet right here, these meet here. From there, I could just stop here and copy. I'm going to copy this one. No, well, not copy, mirror. So I'll select the mirror tool, and I'm going to mirror from here to down here, and press erase source object. We don't want to erase the source object, so we're going to select no. Alright, so there we have it. And the thing I don't like about mirroring is that we get these kind of edges right here instead of smooth curves. But yeah, you can mirror, it works. So the next thing that we have here now is that we're going to do the same thing for the small circle, because there's a hole that goes through this up here. So what does that look like now? So what we can do is to extend these lines. I'm just going to use the extend command this time. Alright, let me click on this line first and then use the extend command. And I'm going to extend this line to it, extend this line to it, extend that line. The center line is already there. Extend that one, this one, and this one. Now we can get a smaller ellipse. Alright, so once we brought down those cyan lines for the smaller ellipse, we're going to need to bring down lines from here, from where these cyan lines meet this line right here. So I could just copy one of these cyan lines. So I'll copy this one. So I select the copy tool. Copy this from here. I'm going to bring it to this point where the cyan line meets the vertical white line here, to there. Already have the center line, to there, and to there. Now I have my points. What am I going to do with those points? So this is what I'm going to do with those points. I'm going to select spline, and this center line meets this first cyan line here, and from there I'm just matching where the cyan lines meet. So for example, these two cyan lines meet here, so that's my next point. These next two cyan lines meet here, and then this line, which would be a center line, meets this cyan line here. These two cyan lines meet here, the next two cyan lines meet. I think I messed up something. No, I'm good. These next two cyan lines meet here, right here. And then now this cyan line meets the center line here. These next two cyan lines meet here. And then I forgot to bring down one of the cyan lines, didn't I? Yes, I forgot to bring down this cyan line right here. And because of that, I'm going to have to restart this. So I don't need to restart. I'm just going to press enter here. And I'll just trim off this piece. So I'll trim this piece and I will mirror this. So I'll click on this, select mirror, click here and click right here. And then now I can bring down this cyan line. So I have what I need, so I don't need to bring it down, but I'm going to bring it down just to show that I understand the construction. So this goes to here. So there we have that. Now I can change back this layer. I can change these lines from cyan lines to bilayer, which would so let me just change them back to construction line. So like this. Yeah. Alright, good. So there we have this. So I'm just going to put these cyan lines into a construction layer again, into the gray lines. So let me just freeze freeze this also. And for all of these lines, we're going to make these lines gray like that. We don't want the cyan lines because it looks confusing. So there we have that. So now I can unfreeze this. I could have just also changed them back using the bilayer command. Okay, so let me unfreeze this layer, unfreeze that layer, and there we go. Now, when you look at this, if you realize, you will see that a lot of the white lines for our plan view are hidden behind these construction lines. So what we can do now is we can select the 0 layer, we can freeze the construction layers. So I'm going to click on all of these lines here, and I'm going to right click, select draw order, select bring to front. So I'm going to bring them to the front, which means that the construction lines will be behind them like that. So now you're seeing the drawing cleaner and clearer. So I need to trim these pieces here. From here, you're basically done with the drawing. You just need to put in a few center lines and dimensions and stuff. And you dimension the drawing the same way it's dimensioned in the question. So like this now, we'll change this to a center line. And actually, let me go by layer here. There we go. And then now this I'll also change to a center line. And select by layer. And I'll extend it out like this. Extend this out a little bit like that. Come over here and select by layer. And there you have it. That's our drawing complete. This is the complete auxiliary view, except for one thing. What we're seeing from where we're looking is we're seeing this end here, this part. But this next part is on the other side, so we're not seeing it. So because we're not seeing this line and we're not seeing this line, even though they're there, we have to represent those using broken lines. So what we're going to do is to change those to broken lines. And there we have it. That is the complete drawing. That would be all your marks. You just need to like dimension, and that's it. If you found this video helpful, it would be grateful if you could subscribe and just like the video or share it with somebody. So thank you for watching and have yourselves a fantastic day.